Ben McKee and Patrick Brown, Go Vols 24/7 here with our No-Huddle on Tuesday of Kentucky week, or as Wes Rucker likes to say, beer barrel week. I think a lot of us like to say that and would like to see that be brought back at some point, but that's a separate conversation for a separate video that, hey, we may record this week. Who knows what we might do this week. One thing I do know is Tennessee's defensive line, very talented, very skilled, been very productive this year, and I thought Rodney Garner, by Rodney Garner standards, was pretty positive when we just got done speaking with him.
Yeah, he likes the way they played, but he also is very critical and says that he almost said it's almost easy to see when you go back and watch the film, okay, we can do this, and this better. He talked about communication, he talked about fundamentals and technique they can do differently to help them make more plays and be more productive as players. And, man, certainly they're getting a lot of production, they're impacting games. They've been really important over this past stretch in October, trying to get Tennessee back from that Arkansas loss, and played well against Florida, played well against Alabama. And they need that defensive line to continue dominating. They're getting a lot of different contributions from a lot of different places. He spoke glowingly about Jackson Moy, who I think we're going to talk about, spoke glowingly about Dom Bailey, who he admitted he had his doubts about when he first got here. But he also likes the culture in that room. He said there's no jealousy. Something I asked Josh Heupel a little bit about yesterday is how you get the buy-in with so many guys playing a lot. I'm sure some of these guys would rather play 40 snaps a game as opposed to 20. But collectively, it's working, and individually, it's helping players play well too.
Yeah, Rodney Garner spoke glowingly about Jackson Moy. Jackson Moy spoke glowingly about Tennessee.
Yeah, a guy that, nobody knew who he was when he committed, right? He committed 20 minutes after Lance heard that everybody was waiting on for like 2 weeks. And Jackson Moy is committed, and he's been really good. You watch him play.
He's produced like everybody thought Lance Hurd would.
Yeah, I mean, when Jackson Moy's in the game, he makes his presence felt, getting in the backfield, making plays. He plays the game with a lot of passion. He is the first Polynesian player that Rodney Garner has coached. He pointed out he's still salty about losing, I think it was Braden Fehoko to LSU, and he said that Ed Orgeron sold him on that he was the defensive line coach, even though he was the head coach. That was a good little callback there from Rodney Garner. But he's a third string. He's technically a third-team defensive lineman. Now all those guys are playing a lot of snaps, and he's playing regularly and getting a chance to make an impact on games. But man, Rodney Garner just raved about his leadership, the ability he has, what he's brought to that room, the culture he's brought to that room, the maturity he's brought to that room, and he's certainly going to be more of a focal point next season when some seniors move on. But certainly he's also played well this season and made an impact on that defensive line.
Yeah, defensive line is leading the way for Tennessee's defense, but Jamal McCoy and Ricky Gibson, that cornerback duo, I think it's the best in the SEC.
Yeah, Jackson Moy was a great interview today. Jamal McCoy is a little tougher to get some stuff out of him, but I think something that he did say that was interesting to me was how he talked about last year at Oregon State. He kind of just played. Just went out and played. He was a freshman, young, probably didn't know what he was doing. He talked this year more about studying more and preparing more for games and being more intentional. I asked him what his process was, and he said, in terms of getting ready for games, he said he studies receivers, releases, and then he looks at formations and for the offenses, and he goes back and watches kind of full games of the team they're playing and tries to pick up on tendencies to where he gets to Saturday and he feels really prepared for what he's going to see, and you see that in his play. And that's just sort of a growing up process that a lot of these players go through. And he's a sophomore, he's in the SEC. You asked him about him and Ricky Gibson wanting to be the best cornerback tandem in the SEC, if not beyond, and certainly he said they've talked about that for a long time. So they're both playing really well. McCoy's playing at a really high level and certainly is getting some of the recognition that he deserves.
Absolutely. So we spoke to Rodney Garner, we spoke to Jamal McCoy, Andre Turrentine, Jackson Moy. We did speak to Kelsey Pope. I was honestly surprised to see Kelsey Pope speak this week, and so we'll address Mike Matthews yet again for I think the 10th consecutive video. Big question mark about where Squirrel White is health-wise. Sounds like he'll be able to play, but how efficient will he be? That was a question that was posed to Kelsey Pope about how you walk that fine line of acknowledging the toughness of Squirrel, but also not putting Squirrel in a situation to where he can't produce because he's limited by the shoulder. And then obviously that also brings Mike Matthews into play because he can play the slot.
Yeah, and you wonder with Squirrel because he's I don't want to say he's had trouble finishing games, but after some targets, he's come down, landed hard on his shoulder, and favored it. Kind of, I'm not going to do it on camera, but kind of slumped over,
walking. You should.
Kind of
lay down in the end zone and do it.
No, slumped over, walking to the sideline, and I think after the Alabama game, he landed hard, and I think got an ambulance to the hospital. and then I don't think he ever got there. But yeah, and you wonder if it is affecting his play, because there was a throw early in the Alabama game where he reached out with one arm. Maybe could he have reached out with two? I don't know. There's another tough catch in that game. The play he got kind of hurt on was, you just wonder, is that pain, is the ability, the range of motion, all that stuff, is that affecting his play? But Kelsey Pope said that they kind of have to go by practice and see what they do there, and you can kind of tell if he's favoring it, this, that, and the other, and that sort of determines how you can, how you go about it in games, how much he can do and how much he can't do.
Yeah, and with Mike Matthews, everybody continues to ask where he is at. It's clear Josh Heupel's answer, Kelsey Pope's answer. It's about building trust on the practice field, and it is maybe difficult for five-star freshman receivers to look at what other five-star freshman receivers are doing, but Kelsey Pope was adamant that he's not paying attention to that type of stuff, and he's motivated, he's hungry, maybe a little frustrated that he's not playing as much as he would like. That's natural, but it feels like that energy is in a good place in terms of just putting your head down, working, and if you continue to work, then eventually your opportunity will come and you hope to benefit and make plays off of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Tennessee, you'd love to get up big on Kentucky and Mississippi State and play them a little bit more, give them a chance to get on the field and make some plays. The big thing that Kelsey Pope said on Matthews was, he used a great analogy about if you're watching someone else's plate, then your own food's going to get cold. Yep. And so he said that seeing Ryan Williams do this or Jeremiah Smith do that, Cam Coleman, all these freshmen that are out there making plays, if you're focused on that, you aren't going to be focused on what you need to be focused on. And so he also said that he is frustrated, but has the right attitude, is hungry about it, and he said he's got a bright future, and if he keeps working and having a good attitude, it eventually will pay off for him.
Absolutely. We've got plenty of Tennessee, Kentucky beer barrel coverage all week long at GoVols247.com. He's Patrick Brown. I'm Ben McKee.